My grandmother, Tal Shalev, was a warm and intelligent woman, but more than anything, she was always the wife of, that is, the significant other of my grandfather, Ambassador Mordechai Shalev. A Zionist at heart, Israel was the place she always wanted to be, but in the early decades of the state, she accompanied him, always at his side, on 5 diplomatic postings around the world. Nostalgic photos show an elegant and graceful hostess, receiving guests at events and functions, always with a smile and an extended hand. Many times underappreciated and overlooked, diplomatic spouses are an inseparable part of overseas posts, dispatched around the world, representing their country, side by side with their husbands and families. Speaking with 2 modern Diplowives, I try to gain a peek into their lives, their contributions, and sacrifices.
Up until the 1970s, wives of ambassadors were considered part of the ambassador's portfolio, and ambassadors were actually rated on how well their wives did in the role of hosting and welcoming official visitors. Life now is very different. For me, when Dan got this position, we decided as a family that it was basically a job for all of us. We were going to represent our country. We were proud to do so. We were honored to do so, and we decided as a family it was going to be something that we all did together.
I'd never been in the Foreign Office myself, but I had a bit of an understanding about what it meant. But truth be told, we lived together and got married while we were in London. So it wasn't until we moved here that I really, really understood what it meant to live as a diplomat.
While their husbands live according to strict diplomatic protocol, the spouses did not have formal duties, but they still need to learn the do's and don'ts of the job.
It's very clear that there are no formal duties, so they're not really allowed to issue any guidelines as such. But that said, I mean, there is definitely sort of soft guidelines. There are definitely things that are best practice and which would be encouraged.
Israel was the first diplomatic post for both Fisher and Gould. Both left well-fulfilled careers to accompany their husbands. While in the past, the supporting and hostess function was socially acceptable, today, women want to be more independent. They want to be their own person and have their own career.
I loved what I did. I was a teacher, and then I was a vice principal at a school for many years. And then I did teacher training, curriculum development, and it was wonderful. And I loved it. And we were able to balance, 2 full-time working parents with 3 children, and it worked well. But when we moved here, we decided that it wasn't going to work anymore. I decided it wasn't a good idea. I needed to give all of my energy to support this endeavor.
Prior to coming here as an ambassador's wife, I was Celia. I was defined by what I did. If someone said, "So Celia, what do you do?" I could say I'm a banker or I'm in headhunting or whatever. I wasn't defined by my partner. So now, well, I'm here, I'm very much defined by who I'm married to. But there's a huge offset against that, which is that we have an amazing platform here from which to do really interesting things. We have a very, very full and interesting life. And I believe 100% that my life is wholly richer for being here with Mathew.
There was a sacrifice, sure. But I think in any couple, there are sacrifices. And sometimes in our previous jobs, sometimes it was Dan sacrificing for what I was doing, and sometimes it was me sacrificing for what he was doing. And I think it's all about the balance.
Unable to follow their own careers, the diplomatic spouse instead often becomes incorporated into their partner's work and way of life. Despite the common notion of dinners and cocktail parties, it entails an intensive schedule, numerous events every day, and actually is a full-time job.
A typical day, would show me maybe attending a diplomatic spouse event, hosting a coffee here at the house with the speaker, picking up the kids at school, helping with homework, and then maybe in the evening going to a national day or going to an event with Dan. There are a lot of areas where I can actually be of assistance to our mission, to Dan in his job and to the embassy. Just yesterday, I went to visit a school in Rehovot for girls that received an embassy grant for teaching English. And I feel like my background as an educator actually comes in very handy in times like that actually when I can be helpful, not just as a spouse of the ambassador, but actually as someone who is a professional and brings her own skills to the table.
Fisher and Gould, both Jewish, found a warm and welcoming Israeli society, but still far away from home. Life in a country in constant conflict is quite different from the peace and calm they were used to.
The most difficult time really has to be last summer. It was very difficult for everybody, but it was difficult with two very small children. And it was very difficult sending them to school in the morning, knowing that there would be sirens and that I'd be relying on somebody else to make sure that they were safe.
Diplomatic feuds also play a role. Serving in a period of unprecedented strain between Washington and Jerusalem, Ambassador Dan Shapiro has been charged with managing the difficult Obama-Netanyahu relationship. Fisher has definitely shared the burden.
There have definitely been ups and downs, and I feel like it's really great that we've been here during times when there have been ups and downs, because of the solid relationship that I have, that Dan has, with all of the people here and the Israeli people and the Israeli government, and that despite the times when there have been disagreements, the relationship has still been very strong.
But new postings can sometimes be both a challenge and an opportunity. And Gould actually discovered a new professional enterprise during the family's mission.
So I had no idea really what form my life would take here or what I would spend my time doing. What I did end up doing was a couple of things. Firstly, I developed my photography, and I think I just got quite infected by the Israeli atmosphere of entrepreneurship. And it really got under my skin, and I had an idea to start printing images onto silk and producing scarves, and I started thinking about creating a brand. And whereas maybe in the past I might have thought, no, it won't work or whatever, I think there was something about being here and the attitude of, okay, fine, let's give it a go, what's the worst that can happen?
At the end of the day, despite the sacrifices and challenges, they wouldn't change what they do now for anything.
It's been an incredible, incredible experience for me, for my husband, for our 3 daughters. It's been amazing. It's had ups, it's had downs, but overall it's been just phenomenal.